10. Jordan Guzman and her boyfriend, Anthony McLeod, were taken into custody in Las Vegas after strangling 3 women to death in February of 2020. The couple beat and choked the women over a dispute about a rental in California. After they committed the murders, they fled 400 miles to Las Vegas. Jordan was only 20 years old and Anthony only 18. They were just a couple of kids who wanted to be Bonnie and Clyde. Luckily for the rest of the world, they only managed to stay on the run for a week. Their victims are Wendy Lopez Araiz, her daughter Genesis, and her son's girlfriend Trinity. All 3 were discovered when Wendy's husband got home late after a long day of work. He thought he would be coming home to his family and was mortified to find the corpse of his wife on the floor covered in blood. He called 911 and the police came right away. When paramedics arrived, they pronounced all 3 victims dead at the scene. The would-be Bonnie and Clyde had stolen a Hyundai Sonata from the property of the people they killed and took off as quickly as they could. Police notified Las Vegas authorities to be on the lookout for the missing vehicle, and they caught them just a few days later. The couple has since been charged with 3 counts of murder. As for the motive, it was all about the rental agreement. Jordan Guzman was a tenant at the residence. She'd gotten into an argument about the rules of the agreement, which resulted in the savage attack that cost 3 people their lives. 9. 2-week crime spree. Blake Edward Fitzgerald used his girlfriend, Brittany Nicole Harper, as a human shield when the authorities opened fire on him. This happened at the end of a long and violent crime spree of a wannabe Bonnie and Clyde couple. Blake and his girlfriend had carried out several kidnappings and robberies over a 2-week span. But when push came to shove and the bullets started flying, Blake had no problem hiding behind his girlfriend. It didn't do him much good. Blake was killed and Brittany Harper took a bullet to the leg. It all started on January 22, 2016. The couple broke into a home in Joplin, Missouri, and stole some guns. That Sunday, they kidnapped a hotel clerk in Tuscaloosa, stole his car, and drove to Vestivia Hills. According to the U.S. Marshals, that was where they dumped the hotel clerk and the vehicle and continued the crime spree. After ditching the hotel clerk, Blake and Brittany broke into a home, scared the family inside with a handgun, and stole their Ford Edge. They also took a woman for a hostage before later dropping her off in Birmingham. 250 miles later, the couple struck again in Georgia, where they robbed a gas station in the small town of Perry. Yet again, they kidnapped a clerk before releasing him later. They also committed 2 robberies in the Florida Panhandle before coming face to face with the cops. The police did try to take them without violence, but it just didn't go down that way. The couple had accidentally cornered themselves in a residential neighborhood in Pensacola. They had nowhere to go and were desperate. They first got out of the car and ran up to people's front doors, trying to break into their houses to hide. Blake was the one who pulled his gun on the cops. By 12:52 a.m., Blake was dead and Brittany was taken to the hospital. 8. The murdering nurses. Kathy Wood and Gwendolyn Graham were a killer couple. You might think of them as a Bonnie and Bonnie more than a Bonnie and Clyde. Both worked as nurses' aides at Alpine Manor in Michigan. This was an old-age facility in a quiet suburb. It wasn't a place where bad things happened. When Kathy and Gwendolyn met in 1986, they became fast friends. Then they became lovers. And then they became killers. In January of 1987, they entered the room of a woman suffering from Alzheimer's disease, put a face cloth over her mouth and nose, and watched as she died. It was sick and terrible, but the murderous women loved it. They loved it so much that they went on to do it 4 more times, killing innocent elderly women between the ages of 65 and 97. All were incapacitated and couldn't fight back, making what they did even more disturbing. The killings came to an end when Gwendolyn dumped Kathy for another nursing aide working at the same place. The Bonnie and Bonnie couple were no more, and this proved to be their undoing. Kathy Wood, no longer under the other woman's influence, ratted them out. She confided in her ex-husband, who went to the police in 1988. Both women were eventually arrested. Kathy went to jail in 1989 and was released in January of 2020. Gwendolyn was given 5 life sentences and is still currently in jail. 7. Failed wannabes. October 27, 2020, the Florida Highway Patrol put a stop to a criminal rampage being committed by a modern Bonnie and Clyde, although this couple wasn't quite as brilliant as the original duo. Evan Neely, 32 years old, and his girlfriend Taylor Banaszak, 12 years younger than him, were busted traveling down the I-10. The Highway Patrol pulled them over as they drove through Madison County. It was a typical moving violation, not a big deal. But according to the police report, when Evan Neely handed the officer his identification, it was pretty clear the ID didn't belong to him. It was somebody that just kind of looked like him. Taylor didn't even have an ID and gave the officer a fake name. For anyone who might try to trick a cop in the future, it doesn't really work. The officer went to his computer, searched the names, and realized these people were lying. When he got back to the car, he noticed a large pile of credit cards sitting in open view in the vehicle. He asked if he could see the credit cards. The couple denied, so he arrested them. Now he was allowed to search their car all he wanted. When he did, he discovered a huge quantity of stolen credit cards, stolen identification papers, social security cards, and so much more. The couple are now facing a combined total of 323 felony charges related to fraud. They may not have been shooting it up, Bonnie and Clyde style, but they were definitely driving around the country collecting as many identities and credit cards as they could, making a small fortune. 6. 8 stores in 10 days. A couple managed to get away with robbing 8 stores in 10 days back in July of 2017. It happened in Brooklyn, with a Bonnie and Clyde wannabe couple going on a petty crime spree that would earn them a fair chunk of cash. The bandits were armed and dangerous, but they weren't exactly hitting high-profile venues. They were robbing delis, convenience stores, and restaurants all along Broadway. They worked together to commit nearly 1 robbery a day between July 17th and when they vanished into thin air. According to the police, they earned themselves $3,321. That's not a bad bit of cash for 1 week of work, especially since they haven't gotten caught. Do you think it was an embarrassment for the police when they failed to catch the duo behind the 10-day crime spree in East New York? Let us know your thoughts on the ones that got away in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe before the end of the video. 5. Carjacking gone bad. At the beginning of 2022, a man and a woman were arrested as they carjacked a 78-year-old man outside a drugstore in Orlando. The criminal couple didn't only carjack the senior, they killed him and then ran him over twice. The would-be Bonnie and Clyde are Javon White and Jasmine Monroe, with their victim identified as Yukon Cummings. Cummings was a retired hospital security guard whose wife had recently passed away. His family was already suffering from one tragedy when the second one absolutely devastated them. According to the Orange County Sheriff's Office, the couple approached the old man outside the store, took his keys by force, and then shot him and left him on the ground. Then when they stole his car, they drove over and backed over him 2 times before fleeing. They could have just taken the car and gone, but they wasted time just to desecrate his body. It was tragic and terrible, and thankfully the police quickly tracked the vehicle down and arrested them. 4. Savannah crime spree. A couple of bandits who wanted to be like Bonnie and Clyde went on a crime spree in Savannah back in 2014. The crime spree left 1 local man dead and the community in disarray. The crime spree started with Laquan Sherrell Brown and her boyfriend, Rashard Warfield Mosley. They worked together to trick and rob unwitting men in a rather poorly thought out plan. The biggest issue with their plan was that they didn't have one. Laquan, the mastermind behind everything, was just 20 years old when she convinced her boyfriend to go on the rampage. It lasted 8 days, with Laquan luring men into vulnerable positions so that her boyfriend could pop out of nowhere, surprise them, and steal their stuff. But they didn't just leave it at a robbery. They also shot people they stole from, which resulted in the death of 51-year-old Ivory Carter. After the couple was caught and brought to court, Judge Louisa Abbott called the case one of the most chilling that she had ever dealt with as a judge. She said Laquan's lack of remorse showed that no rehabilitation would be effective. At just 20 years old, Laquan was given life in prison plus 85 years. 3. The Wells Fargo robbery. It was 6:42 in the morning on June 29, 2019. Officers with the Racine Police Department responded to the Wells Fargo Bank on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Drive. The bank was being robbed, but the robbery actually started the night before. William Howell and Dontarius Robb followed the bank manager home and approached her when she exited her vehicle. They kidnapped the woman and her 2 young children, forcing them into the back seat of their car. They covered her head with a t-shirt and drove to Milwaukee. They took her cell phone and her wallet, all the while pointing the gun in her face. The 2 men eventually dumped the woman in the basement of a house in Milwaukee, where she and her kids had to wait until the next morning. Now comes the day of the robbery. A third conspirator joined the robbers, and the woman and her children were transported to Wells Fargo. She was supposed to give the robbers access to the bank vault, and she did, kind of. They got all the way into the back of the bank and filled their bags with $47,000. That was when their hostage managed to shut a door behind her and her children, separating them from the robbers. But they didn't care. They took off with the cash and were gone. The bank robbers didn't get to enjoy their success for long. All of them were caught, including Lamara Powell, the former girlfriend of the third robber, George K. Pearson Robb. She had been the one to aid and abet the conspirators. She brought blankets for the kidnapped mom and her kids in the basement and helped spend the money. But breaking up with a girl who was involved in your bank robbery probably wasn't a very good idea. She gave everything up to the police, testifying in court against the thieves. 2. Out of cash. In September of 2017, a teenage couple got into a New York City taxi. They had the taxi driver take them home to where the girlfriend lived in the Upper East Side. But at the end of the ride, they didn't have the $8 needed to pay for their trip, so the teens pulled out a gun and robbed the taxi driver. There was a bit of awkward silence at the end of the ride when they didn't have the money, but rather than simply get out of the cab and run away, Hawa Sako pulled out a gun and demanded the driver hand over his phone and money. The cabbie didn't want to get shot, so he did as he was ordered. He handed the girl his phone, and then her boyfriend, Dean Ruslia, punched him in the head. The young criminals clearly hadn't thought about their getaway plan. The cabbie watched as they ran into Hawa's apartment building. It didn't take long for the police to work out which apartment she lived in, at which point both teenagers were arrested and charged with robbery and assault. 1. Ranting on Facebook. In 2017, a young couple who thought themselves the new Bonnie and Clyde found themselves getting charged with murder after ranting about a brutal killing they had just committed on Facebook. Hakeem LaPrince Griffin White and Ashley Ann Coleman shot and killed a man who was walking through a parking lot in Dallas, minding his own business in the middle of the afternoon. His name was Drakeston Alex. He didn't even know the couple who killed him. Surveillance footage from the parking lot showed Ashley's 2007 PT Cruiser driven by the victim. The footage also showed the gunman dressed all in black, leaning out to shoot him. It was a cold-blooded killing that never should have happened. Thankfully, the police located the vehicle and made the arrests. Their job was made a lot easier because after the shooting, the couple posted a video on Facebook of them holding a gun while boasting how they had just shot some random guy. They even posted a picture on Instagram with Ashley holding a rifle and Hakeem standing behind her holding a gun. Which of these failed Bonnie and Clyde couples did you think was the most ridiculous? Let us know in the comments, and thanks for watching. If you haven't yet, be sure to hit that subscribe button and come back soon for more awesome videos from the channel. See you next time. Bye.